and Public Library Advisory Board quarterly meeting, Wednesday, January 15th to order. The second item, we have established a quorum, but if we could do a roll call.
Let's see. Nina, Jack, not yet. Nina, not yet. Sherry Montgomery. Here. Yay. Let's see. Kate, no. Charlie, no. Deborah Simon. Here. Here. See, June Dahl. Here. Sophia Pilgrim. Here. See, Alan Bailey in Charlie's stead. Let's see. Okay, so we have one. Oh, and Grant Echo Hawk.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
Present.
Yeah. You. So we've got, right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members of the board here.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. So we're able to establish a quorum. We do not have any board members to introduce, but again, we do have a guest asked one of our board members to attend. And although not representing the Ketchikan Gateway Borough, you do sit on the Ketchikan Gateway Borough, correct?
That's correct.
All right, excellent. Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so now off to item number 4, land acknowledgement. We are on Tlingit land, and we would like to acknowledge and give honor and respect to the traditional landowners, the Tlingit elders, and past, present, and future generations. We honor the relationship that exists between Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian peoples. Thank you. Okay, next, item number 5 is approval of the agenda. So if I can get a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
Excellent, thank you. And may I get a second?
I second.
All right, approved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, thank you. I'm going to call roll.
Let's see. Dahl.
Here.
Say Montgomery.
Yes.
Okay. Pilgrim. Here. Simon.
Yes.
Echo Hawk.
Yes.
Okay. All right, 5 yeses.
Perfect,
for
thank you.
the agenda.
And then for item number 6, we have approval of the October 9th, 2024 meeting minutes. If I may get a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 9th, 2024.
I so move.
Okay, thank you. Move. May I get a second?
I second.
All right, moved and seconded.
Let's see.
We'll go ahead and give the second to Ms. Kruger.
I'll check.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll go and call roll, or any discussion before we call roll. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Simon?
On the bottom of page 3, I don't recall that motion. Well, I don't recall the motion at all. What I do recall, or at least I saw in the recording and on the transcript, it says, I'd like to move to continue this agenda item to the board's October 23rd, 2024 meeting at 6 p.m. until the missing information and an updated budget can be, and that wasn't in the transcript. I think it was can be given to the board.
Let's see. So I think on the top of page 4, I think we addressed that.
Yeah, I'm talking about on the bottom of page 3.
Okay.
This motion,
Uh-huh.
I don't recall that motion.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken.
I just watched that entire section of the meeting before I came here. While I don't believe that it was a motion, it was just a request that all of these questions that you did ask during that meeting, you did request that Ms. Tully provide answers to those. She said she would, and she would get them to us.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, but so I guess I would agree with you that it was not a motion. It was just it was an informal request, I guess we'd call it.
You're speaking of the bottom of page.
Bottom of page
Yes,
3.
the request that either the city manager or the finance department answer all the questions that that Ms. Simon had that Ms. Tully was unable to answer during the meeting. She did ask that we get further answers from higher ups regarding those, but it was not an actual motion.
Then would it be appropriate to say Simon made an informal request that struck out Mo?
Yep. Okay.
Yes, Jeff.
Okay.
We are on item 6, approval of the October 9th.
6:30 start. Mine was,
Let's see.
oh, yeah, 6.
Oh, pass that down.
Six.
My apologies.
Gets the check.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and finish this discussion and we'll acknowledge.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this?
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't quite finished with that. So on the motion at the top of page 4 is actually incorrect. It was not to hold a meeting like I'll read it again. It was, I'd like to move to continue this agenda item to the board's October 23rd, 2024 meeting. And the rest of this to continue to discuss, that wasn't part of the motion. I mean, I get that we're not doing word for word comments, but it seems like the motion should be. Maybe I'm wrong, but since it was my motion, I kind of would rather it be.
Okay,
And that's this, if that helps.
okay. Yep, I'll look that up. 'cause I
Okay,
forgot.
it was timestamp 13431.
Okay,
And then the second motion is not in here.
and what was the second one?
That's on timestamp 15216. That this, well, it was repeated later too. That the city be told that the library advisory board did not receive updated information or answers to questions that were asked at this meeting before being required to give recommendations. And then later on, we at 20308, it was restated. The board did not feel that it had sufficient information to make information. I think that's probably not what it said, but this is the transcript, to make any recommendations on the budget. And that one did pass unanimously. Right? Okay. And that was all I had.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on item number 6? All right, thank you. I will go ahead and if we can get a roll or a vote on item number 6, approval of the October 9, 2024 meeting minutes
Okay, with amendments?
with amendments.
Okay, cool. All right.
And Mr. I have not acknowledged Mr. Finnegan yet, so he will not be part of this vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Dahl.
Yes.
Let's see. Montgomery.
Yes.
Pilgrim.
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Echo Hawk.
Yes,
Awesome. So the vote on the amended minutes passes.
Great, thank you. And I'd like to take a moment to welcome Mr. Finnegan to the meeting. Thank you very much.
My apologies for being late, entirely my error. I just plugged the wrong, I thought we had a 6:30 start time.
Happens to the best.
My
of us.
mistake.
Yep, thank you.
Got
Glad
like
to have
3
you here.
meetings this week, started at 6:30, and it was not one.
Well, glad you're here. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
All right, we'll go and move on to item number 7, which is correspondence. Do we have any correspondence from the public this evening?
See, I do not have any correspondence.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and then item number 8, public comment. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
Let's see, I do not believe we do have anybody signed up.
Okay, nobody signed up, but I do want to just open up the floor for a couple of moments in case anybody would like to offer any public comment. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close out item number 8 and move on to item number 9 for reports. Our first report is Friends of the Library. Now, Ms. Hobbs is not joining us. Ms. Stahl?
Yes, she asked me if I
Great,
would
thank you.
represent her. Since our last meeting here, the Friends of the Library had its formal meeting December 17th. At that time, the treasurer, Kim Cool, presented the current financial statements and reported on the audit of our 2024 fiscal activity. We do not hire a real accountant to do our yearly thing. We have 2 or 3 board members who look over the receipts and the expenses for the year. Yeah, we do that at an informal meeting just before the December board meeting, and we found everything to be appropriate. Also at that meeting, we look at the requests from the librarians of what Christmas presents they would like. And at that informal meeting, we do not make any motions, but we make a recommendation to the entire board. So then at the December 17th meeting, we approved the audit and the budget requests. This year, we approved a total, the way I figure it, a little over $12,000 to cover the expenses. And the thing is that the water bottle filler has been a big issue, and every 5 years, Pat does a strategic plan, and the public has been knocking on her door. And we went ahead and approved it, and then when it got here on the barge, we discovered it was going to take, what, $8,000
To install.
So anyway, so the $12,000 plus that we approved this year includes that unexpected rise in the price. So where are we in the process?
Oh, we have received the water bottle filler. It is in our mechanical room, and I just need to contact the city's building maintenance department. They are going to work with, I think, the plumbing and the electrical contractor to find a time to get all of that wired in. And the water bottle filler is going to replace the water fountain that is in the lobby. So
Good.
we're very grateful to the Friends.
We take in about $10,000 a year from sales of books and merchandise and also donations. The community is very supportive, and so we get about 10,000 in, and we spend about 10,000 each year. We have a goodly investment portfolio, so we're not destitute, but we don't spend money just because we have it. And certainly going through something like COVID, we were not in any dire straits financially. Of course, the library was not requesting much at that point, but then offsite things, that the library offers, those were certainly important during COVID. So we're very transparent. Anybody who comes to our meetings has full access to our financial reports. So I do believe we're as transparent as we can be. People have been asking about when are you going to start taking books again? And our plan at this point is somewhat weather related. We're planning to do 2 collections per month, starting in March or April, depending on how the weather gods treat us. And then I am happy to say, a little over 5 years ago, I started the Freestyle Book Club as a sponsored activity of the library. And so we've been at it more than 5 years. The membership has changed, but it's become a very family-like setting. Tony Gallegos, who is the education coordinator at the correctional facility, contacted Rebecca Brown, the outreach librarian, and they have worked together to provide books to the inmates. He had decided he wanted to start a book club, and he liked what he heard about the Freestyle Book Club. We don't assign reading. People just come and report on what they've read. And it's kind of like high school. So 3 of our book club members have gone to the correctional facility for orientation, me included. And then I'm expecting 2 more this week. Next Tuesday, we will have our first book club meeting. And when I say book club meeting, this is purely for the inmates, not for the Freestyle Book Club as a whole. We'll have first an hour with the women and then a second hour with the men. And I guess future meetings will depend on what kind of reaction we get from the inmates. I understand many of them are voracious readers, like War and Peace. But then they don't have access to the internet or cell phones. So what are you going to do? So anyway, I'm really excited about this. Tony is looking at perhaps some other activities to offer to the inmates as, maybe a way to help them use their time wisely, develop some self-esteem, those kinds of issues. So I'm very excited about this.
Great.
And that's not really part of the library, but things grow,
In the spirit of the library.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Dahl? All right. Well, thank you very much. Next is for reports. We have City Council report. Anything to report, Mr. Finnegan?
Thanks, Your Honor. Primary report from the City Council would be that we passed the budget in this last month, and pleased to say that the budget for the library was passed as presented. A couple of changes were discussed, but no amendments were made to the budget as it was presented to the council. And I'm excited to see what the library has to bring us in the year to come.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Finnegan? All right, thank you. Next we have. I'm missing.
Borough Assembly.
Tag
Borough
and director. And
Yeah, okay. So we'll go Borough Assembly. Was any information passed on from the Borough Assembly that you'd like to present?
No, you're wrong.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, thank you. And then we have the actual library report. Okay, perfect.
Oh, yes. So I thought what I would do, since I'm doing the annual report, a little presentation on the annual report, is I would hold off and wait until Amy Hupfer gave her presentation on youth services at KPL, if that's okay.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, Ms. Stoker.
And I believe there are slides for this. Okay. Yay.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to present about my division. My name is Amy Tepfer, and before we begin, I would like to take a minute to tell you what this presentation is not. It is not an in-depth look at youth services, my professional philosophies, or a complete picture of last year. It is a general overview of what guides the division, an introduction to the staff and some of our accomplishments and what we're looking forward to in this upcoming year. If you have questions that delve deeper into deeper regions of youth services, I would be grateful or I would be happy to answer those in either a later presentation, an in-person meeting, or by email. But for time's sake, I think we're going to keep this at a surface level so we can get out of here in a reasonable amount of time. Next slide. Sorry, I guess the slides are gonna keep
Yes, it doesn't work today.
on work. So we have Cookie Monster when it eventually comes up.
Okay.
So what is it that we do? At the most basic level, we provide youth and their caregivers with access to information and entertainment through a variety of methods. We do not censor or monitor what is accessed. We provide a wide range of materials and programming, and we acknowledge that not everything we have or do will be for everyone. We foster literacy skills, support social, emotional, and academic development, offer safe spaces for learning and social interaction, and play a vital role in closing educational and economic gaps among the youth in our community. Next slide. So my team is comprised of 3 individuals, Anne Marie Mersoni, Elsa Snodderly, and myself. We each bring something very unique and different to this close-knit team. Anne Marie was born and raised in this community and has been with the division the longest. She brings amazing energy and has a unique talent for getting to know youngsters and their parents through simple conversation. She creates our weekly song and rhyme times. She helps with story time and baby times, craft programs, and many, many other things. She is also the wonder behind most of our social media, and she does our calendar. She is like a walking wonder, and I don't know what I would do without her. Elsa was also born and raised in this community and is the newest member of our team. She has a quiet gentleness about her that allows her to connect well with our tweens. She is the lead for creating all of our amazing displays, which are little mini pieces of art. I highly recommend that you come in and check it out. Right now we have wonderful little penguins around the front of the desk, and she just put up some floral above our reading nook. Elsa also helps with story times, baby times, and our tween programming. She is the only youth service staff member on duty on Sunday and Mondays, which is a huge feat among itself. She is a huge asset to my team and brings a unique perspective to programming. I have been with the community now for a little over 5 years. I'm originally from Northern California, and I have been with libraries for almost 20 years. I order and catalog all youth materials, complete collection management tasks like weeding, handle budget and grants for youth materials and programming, do outreach and plan the community partnerships, plan, prep, and present all reading programs, and I am the teen advisory board staff member. I also help with story times, baby times, and all the other programming. My whole team does desk time, program planning, and presentation, and whatever else is needed. We're really kind of a do-it-all. None of us are just, we only do this. Next slide, please. So this slide really speaks for itself and what our mission is. But because it's so important, I'm actually going to read this slide, and I swear this is the only slide that I will read to you. I used to hate when professors would get up and read the slide, but this is, I kind of get it. So our vision is to create an inclusive and welcoming environment that fosters the love of learning, exploration, and growth. It is our mission to serve the diverse needs of the island's youth population, from newborns to age 18 and their caregivers. We pride ourselves in the diverse collection and programming offerings we host, and in the welcoming spaces we have created for youth in our community. Recently, we had a teen tell us that we were her third space, which is one of the best compliments we could have received. And just so everybody is aware what a third space is, teens especially have been using this recently. And a third space is the next thing from home, school. It's their next free space that they are comfortable in. And Sophia probably can give you even better of a definition of that. But we took that as a very huge compliment for what we've accomplished. Next slide. Partnerships are absolutely key to what we do. They not only bring the community to the library, but they allow us to bring the library to the community. Things we're looking for in a partnership are, is it mutually beneficial? Is there time and interest? And is it sustainable? Partnerships can take many different forms. For example, Ballet Storytime is a single event partnership that doesn't take a huge amount of staff time to plan, but is really popular and allows us to connect with people that we don't always see. Whereas our bus scavenger hunt takes months of planning and prep, but it also runs for several months at a time. It also connects the community that we might not even see in the library. Ongoing partnership examples can be seen through our Born to Read hospital bags. This partnership requires prep on our part, but is passive after the assembly and drop off of the bags, which happens roughly about 4 times a year. The physical collection is normally what people first think of when they think of a library. It's the bread and butter library world. But collections take a lot of effort and training to build and maintain. I view a library collection as a living thing, meaning it is constantly growing and changing to meet the needs of the current user group. And I have trained my staff to think in this manner. We try new things, and sometimes they're hits and sometimes they're duds. One hit that I wasn't expecting was the popularity of our puppet kits. Puppet kits contain a book and a puppet or stuffy around a theme. For example, we have a dragon kit that contains a dragon puppet and the book Paper Bag Princess. The kit allows littles to use imaginary play and develop language skills as they retell the story in their own way. The demand for these kits is huge, and we are constantly adding to this collection. An example of collection change is that 2 years ago, the tweens only wanted to read horror. We couldn't get enough of it in fast enough. Now, just a few short years later, we see the horror pretty much overall sitting unused, but the demand for historical fiction is on the rise. So we are focused into adding that genre into our collection for the current users. These are just a few examples of how collections change and morph. Another quick note about collections is they're diverse and wide-ranging, even in youth areas. Our job as library professionals is to ensure that we have something for everyone, but not everything is for everyone. This means that there will be items that I might not like or might not agree with, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have space on the shelf because someone else could need that item. Space and staffing are another key component to our mission. Youth service staff must be able to engage people at different levels, ages, and needs. While we are labeled youth service, we truly work with everyone, from birth to 100. We pride ourselves in being friendly, open, and engaging, and continually work to improve our skills so that we can help develop lifelong learners and library users among the youth. We hold youth spaces in high regard and defend them fiercely. We believe that youth material should be in those spaces and that you should have an input on what is in there. We reserve these spaces for you. This is especially important in our teen library, where we have found teens are more comfortable when adults are not, quote unquote, camped out in their space. And just like the collection, we view these spaces as changing. Nothing is set in stone for us. For example, we might find that the graphic novel collection isn't working in its current location based on circulation and user feedback. So we will shift it to another location to see if that fits the needs of the current user group better. Next slide. I'm not going to go into details around the philosophy of collection development. There are entire books on that if you're interested, you can read. And you can read my kind of guiding philosophy here. I will say though, that I absolutely love requests for both materials and for programming. Some of our most successful programs have come from patron requests. An example of this is our Drag Queen Storytime. We had over 100 attendees, and this was by far our most well-attended storytime until recently. Generally, if one child or teen is asking for something, that means that there are more out there wanting it, but not asking. So I always say, if you're asking for it, there's probably 10 others somewhere in the background that haven't said that's what they want. And not all requests that come my way are exact. A lot of times you get like, can you get a cat book? Or, or something really vague. And that's absolutely okay. I love those. We're still going to find what that person needs. So requests always take a high priority for me, and I will work very hard to fulfill them in one way or another. Next slide. So let's transition past the nuts and bolts of the department and into the busy year we've just completed. And oh boy, was it busy. It was hard to figure out what to fit, how to fit, and what to fit on the slides. And I finally just came to terms with the fact that unless I was going to put it in like size 5 font, it wasn't all going to fit. So let's talk a little bit about what we accomplished and why my team, and probably the whole library team, ended 2024 absolutely exhausted. Community storytime partnerships were a huge focus for us in 2024. I really wanted the youth in our community to learn about and see all the different resources they had available to them. As you can see, we accomplished that. We had a wide variety of guests, and children learned and experienced so much. Each story time, we did have learning goals, and those were clearly established and expressed to both the presenter and in our storytime plan. And I am so grateful to every community member who said yes when they received my email or phone call asking them to come and read a book and share about their profession or organization. It takes a lot of courage to get up and read in front of 45, 50 little kids who are bouncing off the wall. So I just a huge thank you to every single person that said yes to us. Highlight was Trash Truck Story Time, which was our most popular guest story time and beat out the Drag Queen story time for honor of being our most well-attended story time. The team from Solid Waste went above and beyond getting ready for this story time. The trucks looked like they had been pressure washed and waxed. The kids were able to work hydraulics, and they are still talking about being able to operate the trash trucks and being able to talk to our trash ambassador. Programs like this show our littles what is possible and open their eyes to careers that they might not have considered. We now have little guys that are so excited for trash day and to see the trash man. And so that is just a whole nother component for them to learn and explore with. Next slide. Without community partnerships, we wouldn't be able to offer such a wide range of programs. The amount and variety of programming offered thanks to these partnerships offer windows and mirrors to the youth in our community. Some programs allow them to see themselves, like during Coast Guard Jamboree. Not only did the community learn about water safety, but our Coast Guard children got to see how their families directly impact and help our community. During our fire safety program with Sheen Davis, youth were able to see a transgendered woman in her capacity as a firefighter with the city of Ketchikan. This opened both windows and mirrors and provided critical safety knowledge in a fun way for everyone. Neither of these programs would have been possible without the expert community members to host them, and we're so grateful. I am so grateful that I did not have to try to come up with, how to tie knots or boat safety. We rely heavily on our community partners. Next slide. Programming and class visits give the library an opportunity to show families how exciting and fun the library can be. They are labor intensive and require lots of staff time to prepare, but the community impacts are huge. In a little under 2 weeks this past May, youth service staff visited approximately 1,600 youth at their schools. During these visits, we chatted with the kids about the books that they liked, we read stories, and we talked to them about Summer at Your Library. It was exhausting, and by the end of those 2 weeks, I never wanted to see the book Bad Bunny again, and I was ready to burn the inflatable bear costume that I had been wearing around. But because of these visits, we saw a record number of summer participants, many of which came to the desk saying things like, "Oh, hey, I remember you. You were at my school with that bear and you read us that book. I'm here for that summer thing." Well, summer thing, we'll take it because you remembered something. Likewise, Harry Potter Day allowed the community to celebrate a beloved fandom. but also gave the library an opportunity to give away 240 free books, thanks to the IBEW and the Friends of the Library for their generous sponsorship of those books. These books help build home libraries and encouraged lifelong reading. Library Wonder Bags are another labor of love, but are widely popular and receive vast amounts of positive feedback from the community. We currently make around between 30 and 50 of them, and we run out within a day. And we require, it's one per family, and we require the family to come in and get it. And we just, it doesn't matter, we cannot make enough of those bags. The craft bags are unique because they bring families in that we only see when they come in to get a craft bag. And it reminds us, it allows us to reconnect with them and shows them that the library is welcoming. We don't care, just come in, come and have fun. No matter the program, I can assure you that library staff has put lots of love and time and effort to ensure that it meets the library's mission and encourages lifelong learning. Next slide. During the last meeting, Sophia had asked about summer at your library. And while I hinted a little bit at the success, I just want to take a quick moment to tell you how successful it truly was. Children, which is youth birth to 12 years old, logged 192,000 minutes in just under 2 months, with 549 children participating, which was the largest number of participants we've seen since I've been here. Teens logged 75,840 minutes in the same amount of times, with 46 teens participating, which was a significant increase over the 16% from the previous year. It was actually a 287% increase. I had to have my husband help me do the math because I had went a little off the rails on my math and I'm not sure what I did wrong. But so that 287% increase was something we were extremely proud of. We handed out 274 free books in 2 hours at our youth kickoff party. And the teens received 68 free books over the course of the summer. We're beyond proud of these results and of the community of readers who joined us in this challenge. Next slide. So what's next? Well, we'll continue to serve the youth in our community through collection development, programming, professional library services, and by being active participants in the community. We are currently wrapping up our second year with the Children's Book Council. We're beginning to prepare for Summer at Your Library 2025. We're wrapping up our 2025 Winter Reading Program, which was another program that saw a record number of participants. And we're brainstorming large-scale programming offerings for this upcoming year. Some of our goals for 2025 are to host 2 more free book giveaways, participate in the art walks with the museum, host another trash truck story time, that by popular demand, re-envision our teen advisory group so that it meets the current needs of our teens in the community, and to spread library joy throughout the community. I wish I had a crystal ball that would show me exactly what was coming. And I think we probably all do. But I don't. So we're going to prep what we can and be ready to find a way to yes whenever possible so that library joy truly is spread across the community. Next slide. I encourage each of you to come to the library, have a tour, ask questions, check out all the new things we have going on or one of our classics. Make a recommendation, check out a game or a puppet or a craft kit, come to an event. Tell your neighbors what is happening at the library because it's because of your support and your activism that we are able to do what we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Stover? No, I thank you. Appreciate it. All right, next item on our agenda is item 10B, the KPL 2024 annual report by Ms. Tully.
Yes. Okay, and I too have a slide, one slide. Put up my one slide. I'm just going to talk a little bit about highlights from 2024 and some of our things we're dealing with in 2025. So, highlights of 2024. I'm just going to touch on a very few things. One is personnel. We are currently fully staffed with the exception of a part-time page in the children's library. We greatly miss Office Manager Kelly Johnson, who retired last March after 31 years at the library. And as you can read in the annual report, we were able to promote several existing staff members and also to hire Eric Matson as our 21-hour-a-week library assistant 1 in adult and technical services. And that has proven very successful. We also celebrated a number of staff milestones in 2024. In January, we celebrated Rebecca Brown's 5th year as outreach librarian. In February, we celebrated Lisa Pearson's 25th year working in the library in a variety of capacities. And in November, we celebrated Amy Tupfer's 5th year as head of youth services. Programs. The library offered 379 programs in 2024. Many were single programs, but some, like the summer and winter reading programs for adults, teens, and children, were composed of several events and programs. Just a few notable programs were Ronan Rooney's talk on the 1908 shipwreck of the Star of Bengal. And if you have never heard Ronan Rooney talk, he is an amazing storyteller. We also had a special story time with guests from the landfill, trash story time, the Ketchikan Theater Ballet, and many, many others. The Outreach Services quarterly program, Senior Tech Time, with staff from KPU Telecommunications, was also a big hit with seniors who were looking to get some help with their electronic devices. And as Amy mentioned before, this year the library partnered with many other organizations and individuals. We counted about 36 other organizations and individuals on programs and library services. Collections. 2024 saw the library adding a number of streaming resources, including Comics Plus, Canopy, and Freegal. We used to have a limited version of Freegal Music before, but this is a more user-friendly version. In 2025, we are going to be premiering a new streaming resource called Hoopla sometime early in the year. Facilities, and we might hear a little bit more about facilities later. Thanks to Sophia and members of the Teen Advisory Group, we reorganized the teen room to create more room for group work and study. It is great to see and hear teens use that room. And of course, Friends of the Library. The Friends approved a number of purchases for the library from the proceeds of their book sales, including the purchase and installation of the water bottle filler, the legendary water bottle filler, in the library's lobby. So in 2025, in addition to our normal slate of services, programs, and collections, the library has the following things going on this year. We are looking at unhoused people who are in the library. Since the Low Barrier Homeless Shelter closed in May, we've noticed more unhoused people in the library. Most people are totally fine. They follow the patron code of conduct and are just looking to sit, to read, to rest. But there are a few who are either unwilling and many are unable to follow that code of conduct. Since early November, we've been tracking issues with patrons who break the rules in one way or another, and we're exploring ways to serve our unhoused community while still fulfilling our core mission to the community. Online library systems. Our current online library system is over 15 years old. This year, we will put out a request for information to online system vendors to learn what library systems are out there and how much they might cost. This may lead to a migration to a new online system in 2026. And finally, additional outreach and children's hours. The City Council approved a 6-hour increase per week in our part-time outreach librarian position, and also a temporary position for part of the year in children's services. These will help us better meet the increased demands for programs and services, both within and outside the library. the increase in demand is not likely to ease in the future. So as a staff, we're going to be working on a plan for providing what services we can without completely overextending ourselves. So the library's 2024 annual report is in your packet. It will also be available shortly. It'll be linked to our website. And that is all I have. Any questions?
Fantastic. Any questions for Ms. Todd? Yes, Ms. Simon.
So is this report basically a formal document for the library?
Yeah, I think probably as formal as we get, yes.
So does it include material that the library's involved with? Or just material, or that librarians are involved in, or just with material that the library is involved with?
Let's see, it kind of includes a little bit of both, but mostly what the library is involved with.
Is there material in here that is just librarians and not the
I
library?
think in let's see, probably the other things, part of it. We include things like the landslide closing, which was not directly one of our things, but it did affect us. And we included the wearable art show.
So I was told by the city of Ketchikan that the wearable art show, I'll just quote it, while some participants within the show hold positions with various public institutions, their involvement in the show falls outside the scope of their city duties and represents their personal artistic expression on their own time.
And our professional, in this case, it was our profession, because we as a group of librarians in the city, or in Ketchikan, participated.
So your capacity in the show was as both personal and professional.
Right, because as my profession is librarian, that's, yes, and that's over and above my particular position as library director.
Is the library, I'll ask it directly, did the library sponsor any part of the librarian's participation in the wearable art show?
No,
Then why is it in the library's 2024 annual report that will be linked on its website to anyone visiting that website? And I assume, sorry to interrupt, and I assume presented to the city council and borough at some point?
it will be presented to the city council and borough. It's something that I thought needed to be included.
Is that something that the city manager also thought needed to be included?
I did not run this by the city manager.
I believe you're aware of the complaint that encompassed the librarian's participation in that show.
I did not hear that there was a complaint.
I'm not sure how you failed to, but I'll make sure you get a copy of it. As a board member,
Mhm.
I would be remiss not to say that I believe this does not have any place in a report on the library when it is the city and the city manager's specific opinion that this is personal artistic expression on librarians' own time. That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that input. I appreciate it. Any other questions for Ms. Topher? I'm sorry, Mr. Tilly. Ms. Tilly. All right. Well, thank you. If I may, just real quick, I would like to highlight, this did go up on the screen as part of the presentation, but there's a couple of really great things on here I want to make sure everybody has a chance to take a look at. 55,487 library visitors over the course of the year. That is absolutely extraordinary. And also, this does not include the visitors that come in and don't go past the little counter, the ones that just go into the meetings.
Right.
So talk about utilization of this important institution. I mean, this is just incredible. And then I wanted to also, you did mention this already, but I just wanted to call this out, 379 programs That is a lot of programs. And so just you, your staff, everybody that's volunteering at the library, all of the work that's being done. It clearly is our community is able to take advantage of everything she's doing. It's just really incredible. So for those at home, this is the front page, very colorful, has a lot of great stats on there. I'd recommend checking it out. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you. We will move on to, I lost my agenda. Is this my agenda? You can see that. Yep. This is it. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 11, unfinished business. And this was brought forth by Ms. Dahl, process for selecting officers. Ms. Dahl would like to discuss how to select officers according to Robert's rules. But what should our procedure be? And just add a little bit more context from the April 10th, 2024 Library Advisory Meeting agenda. Chair calls for the election of the new chair for a 1-year term. Nominations then show of hands for each nominee in the order they were nominated. First nominee to get a majority vote is elected. So essentially, if we have 2 candidates or 2 people that have been nominated for, let's say the chair seat, we go through the first round. If they receive enough votes, then they are then the chair. But if not, then it goes to the second round. Is that how we're doing it?
We've
Or
never
have we
gone to
ever
the
done that?
second round.
Right, we've never gone to the second round. So, so that is the discussion on the table. And basically, if we would like to make any changes to that procedure, correct?
Well, I understand in order to have a discussion, we must have a motion.
Correct.
So I have a motion.
Okay, perfect. All right. thank you.
Okay. I worked long and hard on this one.
Okay,
I make the motion that elections for chair and for vice chair be by paper ballot, that 2 board members who are not being considered for either office shall count the votes, that the person receiving the most votes shall be the winner, and all nominated candidates for either office shall be considered at the same time.
second. All right, second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Would you like to start the discussion?
Yes, I don't have a dog in the race because I don't plan to ever run again. But I was just startled to see our system because it seems so different from the traditional way of electing people. I get the feeling that the way we do it now, the first person nominated has an extra foot in the door. And I would rather see us have the full slate of candidates and then vote for one of those candidates so that they're all kind of on the same level. And if it will come to a vote, I will vote yes, because I do think this is a superior way to choose our officers.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions or further discussion?
Could you just read your motion one more time?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's 4 parts. I make the motion that elections for chair and for vice chair be by paper ballot. That 2 board members who are not being considered for the office shall count the votes. That the person receiving the most votes shall be the winner. And all nominated candidates for either office shall be considered at the same time. And this was really hard because we would have 2 different elections.
Mhm.
One for the chair, one for the vice chair. So this is actually, we're going to do this for the chair, then we'll do this for the vice chair. It's not like we're going to have all of the candidates for both at the same time.
Yeah. So just to clarify, so it would be 2 separate elections. So it wouldn't be like second place is automatically vice chair.
Right.
Correct. Okay.
Right.
And then would the process of nomination be the same? I mean, would that be just somebody else nominates you and somebody has to second it and then
Mhm.
throw your name in the hat and the best man wins, or?
Let me think. Let's say I nominate you for president or for
Mhm.
chair. Do we have to have a second? We have to have your agreement that you'd be willing to run.
I think, yeah, just agreement.
Oh, okay, so, I nominate her, she agrees to run, and that's all she needs to get on the ballot.
Okay, well, I just wasn't sure if this, because your motion kind of just addresses the voting procedure. It
Mhm.
doesn't really address the nomination procedure, so.
Yeah,
The, previously, it just says, somebody was nominated, somebody had to second it, and then boom, it goes to a vote. So if the nomination process is staying the same, it just be the voting process, then that's,
yeah. I didn't
I like it.
personally have a problem with how we nominate, and I see, thank
I
you
just
for
wanted
putting
some
this in here,
clarification.
Pam, Pat. Finnegan nominated, Echo Hawk, Hop seconded, so I guess we do require a second.
Yeah.
And Echo Hawk didn't accept.
What?
There was no Echo Hawk accepted.
He wasn't even here.
Oh, no, there is. Right after.
I have a clarification. So, would then there be theoretically, and I don't know if this would differ from the previous way, but theoretically, 4 or 5 different nominated folks, and that's also the same as how it was previously?
Let's say out of the 9 positions, we have, let's say for president, we have 5 people nominated. So when you get your little piece of paper, you write down the person that you want, and then 2 people count the votes. The person with the most votes wins. I've thought about like ranked voting. You think, okay, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But what if 2 candidates get 3 votes each, and then the other 3 are sprinkled? I don't know how to handle that. I'd like a friendly amendment if anybody could succinctly express that.
If I may suggest, maybe not make an amendment, but make sure it's in spirit of the conversation, that in the event of a tie between the top, that we redo the vote of just those 2.
Oh, okay. Do you want to add this as a friendly amendment?
Sure, then,
Okay,
all right. Then add a friendly amendment of, in the event of a tie between candidates, that we redo the vote with just the people in the tie. Hopefully it's not like a 4-way tie. So, but I think that's pretty unlikely. Possible, but I think unlikely.
okay, so I'll run this by you. Okay, and I agree to the friendly amendment. In the case of a tie between top voters, between top candidates, a second vote of just those 2 candidates will determine the winner. Is there a second to that? I think we need a,
I think we would need a second for that amendment.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
How much of the procedure is statutory?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't think it's part of the ordinance.
I can't imagine this
yeah.
would be built into.
Because I know the museum one is, I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
Do I even have it?
Oh,
I don't. I
I'm
might
not
be able
sure
to
I
pull
have
it
it
up.
with
do you have
me,
the city
but
charter?
I know that there is some talk of amending the ordinance to include a section on the election of office.
I think the way that the city code reads is that if we don't have our own way of dealing with something, we follow Robert's Rules of
Mhm.
Order. And there's nothing in there that talks about how we are choosing our officers.
It just says,
Remember that.
the annual election of these officers shall take place at the regular May meeting, and these officers shall serve for a term of 1 year.
Officers may serve for 2 consecutive terms and may thereafter be reelected after an interval of 2 years. But there is no of how the election
How it happened.
proceeds, yeah.
Where was that? Sorry.
It's number 6. Would you like me to read it again?
No, I was just looking, you were reading very quickly.
Sorry.
No, no.
Operating
quicker
rules
than
and
me.
bylaws, number 6. It's the board members shall elect from their number a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. The annual election of these officers shall take place at the regular May meeting, and these officers shall serve for a term of 1 year. Officers may serve for 2 consecutive terms and may thereafter be reelected after an interval of 2 years.
So when are we doing the elections? I thought we were doing the elections at a different time.
Yeah, you know, I think
Sorry.
this is an old.
Must
That's
be
the one I got.
because, This one.
Yeah, that was the oh, that's why I couldn't find
Operating rules
it.
and bylaws.
I was actually,
Yeah, bylaws.
I was told the
Yep,
bylaws
sorry, guys.
Yeah,
don't
bylaws are
work
not-
anymore.
Yeah.
Or,
Okay.
um,
My binder's not updated appropriately.
so the code,
No, I
Yeah,
just
'cause
read
that
it and
one
don't
talks
see
about
anything in
monthly
there.
meetings.
That's the whole
Yeah.
library code. I also printed out.
I just have
That's
library
part of it.
department. It's probably in this.
Yeah, I don't see anything on here.
It just says,
The officers.
yeah. I mean, the part about Robert's Rules of Order shall govern the deliberations and actions of the board to the extent not otherwise provided by an ordinance or resolution adopted by the council and made applicable to the board. But it doesn't say anything about exactly how we elect them in the city code.
so I'm sorry, is that an interruption?
I'm done.
So what you were reading, Robert's rules governs to the extent not otherwise provided by the city council, right? Am I reading that right?
Yes.
So then, again, I'd ask, when we are overriding Robert's rules, what procedure do we need to follow for this to hold true? That'd be my only question.
Well, I guess then what we can do is, since I don't, there's nothing in the actual document that says that there's anything.
Well, it does, sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
well, I guess I'm under the assumption that, and this could be wrong, that if there was something specifically outlined that would be presented as part of the documents. But with that said, would it make sense then to move this to the next meeting?
Well, we'll be having an election at
Right.
the next meeting.
Oh, and we couldn't do any business until we have our officers in place. Theoretically.
Could we ask the city manager for counsel?
Miss City Man, thank you very much for being here again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Essentially, it is up to this body on how you want to proceed. And that's really the only guidance. So since there's nothing that speaks to it in the code, it really is the best decision for your functionality as a committee. So, I mean, that's really up to you, what you all agree on. And you can do that. Just agree this is how we're going to move forward, as long as you're all in agreement.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you as well. So then I believe that's our answer. Thank you. Any other questions on the motion on the floor? Or
Can I ask a clarifying question?
yes, ma'am.
So this voting, it will be anonymous voting by paper, correct? Moving from how we would be doing raising hands and everyone could see the vote, that's changing.
Yeah, you know, I thought about that and, if you've got, say 3 candidates, that might be a logical number. I suppose we could do that by hands. What do you think?
I'm sorry, maybe.
Okay,
My question was more so to the ring of, not that we should keep the hands, just clarifying that there's been a change from everyone, a public vote to an anonymous vote.
mhm.
I just want, in section F of the Library Advisory Board, it does say The board shall keep minutes of its proceedings showing the vote of each member upon each question. So I believe that an anonymous vote would be a violation of that.
So perhaps one way to do that is you write down the person that you want and then you sign your name.
Yeah, it could be just.
And then the secretary could record those in
Yeah.
the minutes.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Not to belabor, how different is this from Robert's Rules of Order?
My understanding is that the way that had been done was,
Was that,
We've
What was
been
that?
doing it according to Robert's rules, which is, let's say you're the first person nominated, Sharon's the second one. And so we would first of all vote whether we want you or not. And then, let's say you get 4 votes and then we move on to Sharon. She might get 3 votes. So it just seems that it gives a preference to the first person nominated. Like I say, we've never moved on to the second candidate.
any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
this last sentence gives me pause and I'm not sure that deviating from Robert's Rules of Order is an option. Provided this falls under the deliberation or action of the board, and it seems like it's an action of the board. It says that Robert's Rules of Order shall govern the deliberations and actions of the board. Unless a adverbial clause, unless the city council does otherwise. I don't see anything in here that allows the board to change those. And I know others might not see it that way, but I can't. That to me says that I can't vote for that. But
So just my input, Robert Rules of Order is just a way to conduct an orderly meeting. And so when it comes to what, as a body, or at least what I believe is my input, and why I'll be supporting this, because I think I agree that the person that's nominated first feels like has a slight advantage, whether or not it's real or imagined. It just feels like it would be a little bit more, the implication feels like it's a little bit more fair under the new guidelines. But I think it's reasonable for us as a body, as Ms. Walsh mentioned, that we can make these adjustments if we feel it's best to serve the community and have our body do that in the most effective way. So I'll be supporting the motion. Anything else?
Can I make a friendly amendment to add in that we note the voter and the vote? Can we, because so then it's not anonymous to follow with procedure?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I would write that down. Paper ballots.
Paper ballots shall be signed by the voter.
Legibly.
Great. Good discussion. Teamwork. All right, anything else before I close out discussion? All right, thank you very much. We'll go and call roll on the, let's go ahead and read it one more time. Just-
Good idea. I make the motion that elections for chair and for vice chair shall be by paper ballot. That 2 board members who are not being considered for the office shall count the votes. That the person receiving the most votes shall be the winner, and all nominated candidates for either office shall be considered at the same time. In the case of a tie between top candidates, a second vote of just those 2 candidates will determine the winner. Paper ballots shall be legibly signed by the voter.
Okay, Thank you. That is a motion. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, we're ready for the roll.
Okay. See, Finnegan,
Yes.
Hops.
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Pilgrim,
Yes.
Simon,
No.
Dahl.
Yes.
Okay. And does the chair vote?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, all right. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yays and 1 nay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The motion passes. Before we move on to item 11B, let's go and take a quick bio break and grab one of those
Get some
delicious
Things.
treats. And you know what? Yes. Let's go. How about it is 7:11 according to my phone. How about we give it till 7:20? Order. And before we move on to the next agenda item, we had such a robust discussion. I forgot to recognize Miss Nina Hops. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, yep, sorry. I was at the Arts Council meeting before this, so.
That's all good. Yeah, glad you're here. Thank you very much. So we have, I think now everybody here, right?
No, we don't have Charlotte.
Oh, except Charlie. I'm sorry.
Charlie,
Almost
Charlie and Kate.
Yeah, yep. So
Yeah.
and Kate. So, but still, we are ready to get this meeting back. I lost track of where I'm at.
Nope.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so we are on item 11B, which is the teens and KPL and the KPL. And this is where I had asked Ms. Pilgrim to talk about the library teen representative. And we have some packets. You ready to kind of fill us in?
Yes, so be prepared for me to talk at you for a good amount of time. If I was smarter, I would have started with the catch-up ones, but I will just go ahead and kind of talk you through the packet and kind of how it came to be. So with these groups, we've had a lot of scheduling conflictions and finding out what works with us as a group. I didn't feel like a survey would really be what I was looking for. I wanted this to be kind of a conversation so I could build off of ideas and not just what each person had said. We scheduled a Zoom call about a week and a half ago. That was a date we'd settled on with about 12 different people from different states. I kind of listed their name and their state on the list just so you knew kind of where this was coming from, I suppose, what states. It was about a 3-hour long conversation. It started off with just like an hour-long time period where we were going to just go over some general topics and kind of see where it was coming from and what they were looking at for their teen populations. And then it kind of developed into, in a perfect world, what would we like to see and things like that. So yes, the first thing we kind of talked about was library space and environment. Kind of what we wanted to see when we came into the library, what we felt the general teen population was wanting. And that was 3 big hitters: flexible spaces, inclusivity and accessibility, and a modern youth-centered design, especially for teen rooms and teen areas. It felt like a teen space separate to the rest of the library. That was where a lot of the positive feedback was coming from. I feel like our library does a great job of that, and Amy was just talking about how they reorganized the teen room. I absolutely love how they did that. I think it perfectly aligns with what teens are wanting, especially in Ketchikan teens, and kind of making the space feel more comfortable. Programming and activities. A lot of teens were asking for art-based programs, career and life skills development, mental health, and just regular social time. So these were kind of the big 4 that we came up with. In the general, if we had to split it down to what are they asking for, not just like specific things, like someone was talking about a mental health retreat that they have where the library is open 24 hours. So the teens go overnight and kind of just have like a mental health day. I think that was from Georgia. But like rather than specific activities, we were in the general. So a lot of the thought process behind this was what could be implementable in Ketchikan. If there were things that I didn't think could be implemented here or didn't seem that the general population wanted, like based off of this packet, then I kind of was like, oh, I hear that. And then let's look at more what we think we could implement. So those were the big 4 for programming and activities. Collection development, that was a big thing that we talked about. What kind of books are coming in? What kind of books are they wanting? What are teens wanting? A lot of it, like we looked at a couple different surveys that other reps had done, and a lot of what people were asking for was diversity in content. I'll read just the paragraph I wrote about it because I feel like that best represents it. Teens value books that represent diverse voices and experiences, including LGBTQ+, BIPOC, and neurodiverse characters. And that kind of summed up what we were looking at on our surveys. Mainly theirs because they had been doing this a couple more years than I had, and I was going off of just what I'd been able to develop. But that was what they were looking for, and that's what the amount of checkouts for those kind of books had ticked up in their services. And a lot of societal issues and current issues, those type of books had been ticked up a lot, especially in the last 2 years. So I haven't been able to put that on my survey because this one had already been out by the time that I'd done this. But going forward, asking questions like that on the survey, I think I or the next team representative should include it. But that was really one thing that we were really wanting to focus on. Trending genres were, again, the same as they have been for the couple years. Agreeing with Amy, horror has gone down and historical fiction has gone up. It is very, very popular. I myself enjoy a good historical fiction book, so I guess I'm agreeing with the populace of teens. But we noticed that a lot of informational resources teens were looking at, like they want to learn, they want to have things that lead them into careers, they want to have things that lead them into other activities. And looking at that, I thought was important, not just that they're coming there for a good fantasy or a good horror book, less so now, but that they're also looking for informational things. And then the fourth was that the library is a safe space. That was something we talked about for probably an hour, what a safe space looks like, why a library needs to be a safe space, and how we can do that. And like Amy said about third spaces, my definition of a third space and how I've been working with third spaces is that you have your home that you live at, you have your school or workplace that you live at, but what is a low barrier space? That means free, no obstacles to get in kind of space where you can learn, thrive, and exist without there being a pushback on you being there. That's what I consider to be a third space. And the library should be a third space for everyone. It should be a safe space. And so we talked about safe, inclusive, and welcoming environment. A lot of teens say that libraries are safe havens. They can go, they can study, they can hang out with other friends. It's a no judgment area where they can really do, within respectful boundaries, whatever they want to. And a lot of the surveys that they had been putting out down south, I think I put specifically on types of books, but it said libraries should be proactive and offering spaces for LGBTQ+ teens, teens of color, and other marginalized groups. A lot of low barrier spaces do not include opportunities or spaces for those marginalized communities. And as a library working for the betterment of the community, including those groups in all aspects of a safe space is highly important. Non-judgmental spaces kind of goes with that. And then mental health resources. A lot of teens say that they would like to see pamphlets. They would like to see little things where maybe the library isn't allowed to maybe put out what they think of mental health, but having pamphlets or having guidelines or having people they could reach out to available in the library, since so many teens who could be struggling with things that needed mental health help with, having those, I can't think of the right word, that information available to them is heavily important for the library to supply if the community has it. And teen involvement in library decisions. Ketchikan actually was a big leader in this type of activity with the TAG group. A lot of other libraries down south, from the list I was talking to, they don't have a TAG group or an teen advisory group. And so a lot of this was just reiteration of what they were talking about, but I feel like TAG embodies that perfectly. I would make no changes with what our TAG group was built for. And so I think this all kind of perfectly embodies it on number 5. And then number 6 is kind of the shift in what the library has been used for. I'm just going to read it from this because my words are a little slurred right now. But while traditional library visits remain popular, there's been a noticeable increase in digital library engagement, ebooks, audiobooks, online resources. Libraries should continue to expand digital collections, especially those that cater to teen interests. I think looking at the you had it on here, but the online tutoring and the ebooks and what is it, Libby, Alaska Digital
Yeah.
Library, those kind of things a lot of teens use. I think there was even a response on the survey that I'll get to in a second. Why do you not go to the public library? And it was, I have ebooks, I have podcasts. Sometimes I don't have the time to go in, so I use other online resources. And so I think that as much as the library is a physical thing, it's also online services that a lot of people are now beginning to access more than going in for the physical library. And so I feel like that's an important part of the library that we wanted to talk about. But then physical library engagement is still highly valued, especially when combined with engaging programming or spaces for socialization. Specifically like the finals party that they just did. That was combined with something outside that brought kids in where they were able to socialize and study. And then with the craft room, they were able to take a break if they needed to. I felt like that perfectly embodied the kind of what we were looking at for physical engagement that just draws people in when maybe it's not for just a book because they have that online, but there's programming that also brings them into the library. And then I just wanted to talk for a quick second about the regional differences. Since this was kind of a national thing, we didn't have every state, but we had a couple. Kind of looking at where different things were coming from in our conversations, I pinpointed a little bit of differences in responses and based off surveys coming from these representatives. So the West Idaho, a lot of more topics about rural teen areas and outdoor spaces. They'd been looking at doing a lot of workshops in their library, less about collection development, more towards programming. The Northeast, New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, had a lot greater focus on diversity. They, in their libraries, had been incorporating a lot more books, BIPOC, LGBTQ plus resources, things like that. That had been a big push in the last 2 to 4 years for them. The Midwest was really looking at career readiness and mental health. That was what they were seeing with a lot of their teams in both school libraries and public libraries. And then the South was focused more on educational and recreational kind of including in the library. It was in looking at inclusive spaces, not for specifically marginalized community, but for every teen. That was a big focus. But that was kind of the breakdown of where the conversation was coming from, if that makes sense. Like when we were talking which ideas were coming from, since I wasn't taking it word of mouth by each person because this was just recorded Zoom call where we were just kind of talking out things like that. And then at the very back, the key insights for this, which were the top 4 things that I felt if you were totally zoning out because I'm talking a million miles an hour, these were the 4 things you should really hear from this. The need for more diverse and relevant programming. Teens want things that are current to them now. They want things that they feel help them as a person or help their friend as a person and are current with things going on in today's age. Space, flexibility, and comfort. Again, our library does a great job of this. Having a comfortable space where teens can exist and not feel that they need to be super quiet. They need to be constantly kind of making sure they're not taking up space, but a comfortable, almost home-like space. And that was how our library was described in this survey that I'll get to in a second. So I feel like we're doing a great job of that, but that is a focus. Inclusivity, again, offering a safe space for all teens and all people in the library, which again, I think our library is doing a great job of. And then teen participation. A lot of teens would love to have an active role in shaping programming and services and collections, but it's a really scary thing to start doing. I'll speak from personal experience. It is terrifying to get started with. And I really like that Amy's taking kind of a change on tag and making sure that they can include like the broader amount of teenagers. So I feel like, again, we're doing a great job of it, but that's kind of the focus that we, at the end of the meeting, kind of said, okay, this, and this. And this packet didn't just go to me. We actually shared it among our groups, and a couple other representatives are bringing it to their boards, whether this month or the next. So this is kind of just coming from all over, if that makes sense. And it was just a general kind of overview of what our meeting was looking like. Is there any questions now that I just talked ever enough?
Perfect. Any questions? from the field? If I could just add a little quick input before we move on. First of all, thank you very much. This is fantastic. And if you could also pass on to the young people that participated, how much I personally appreciate their input and their perspective on this. And I also would like to just add, just from a philosophical perspective, I agree 100% in having a place for people to go, especially our young people, but anybody, but I think especially our young people where they can just be themselves and just be themselves. And so it's one of the things I really appreciate again about the library. And as a young person, way back in the day, I was a young person, and that was something that I enjoyed about my local library because that was important to me. So I would like to just add on that I agree that that is something really important. So, no, anybody else? All right, thank you. Next item.
Okay.
And this is item, let's see, the
She's got
E,
11.
yep, 2, yep, okay.
More of me talk. So that's wrap. This one is the winter survey for the 2024-2025 school year. This is the second survey I've done, but I did change one crucial thing. I added incentive to this form. If a person filled it out, they had the option to put their name down, and their name would be entered in for a drawing for a $25 B&D gift card. It definitely got more response, thankfully. We did have some people decide not to put their name, so that was definitely an option. It was just if they wanted to be entered for it, then they could. And another helpful part of this having them put their names down was that some of them had questions, or more so, this is something that stops me from going to the library, and I can add their name to just a quick email where I can shoot all of the answers to that, which I'll get to at the end of this. So it was helpful that I could provide feedback straight to them instead of last time I had a lot of things that I wish I could have given feedback to, but I didn't know quite who to give it to. So this one was helpful with that, and I'm very grateful that we had a good turnout. And I will just start reading about this. So we had a total of 65 responses. The majority of them were juniors. I felt like that made a lot of sense to me because that's kind of college apps for getting ready for them. Finals, a lot of juniors are taking AP classes. So I felt like the percentages made a lot of sense to me. The second came in was freshmen, which I was a little shocked by it, I won't lie. I'm glad to see our freshmen using the library. I did not expect them to come in second though. Then third came sophomores, and fourth came seniors. So that was kind of the breakdown of which high schoolers are going to the library and what grades. And then the next question they were asked is, how often do you go to the Ketchikan Public Library? So the majority of them, with almost half of the percentages being that teenagers go 1 to 3 times a month, which compared to our last survey, I find is a win because last time the majority said 0 to 1 times a month. So I feel like this is progress. I'm, as much as I can take it, I'm appreciative. And then second place came 0 times a month, which again, a lot of people said they don't go, but a lot of those responses were included with, but I go to the Ketchikan High School Library. And so I take that still as a win that a lot of those responses were just, I have a library right here that I can go to during school. I don't have the time to go outside of it. So I think that while the 32.3% of people that don't go is a large number, I think that is kind of equaled out by teens who go to the K-High Library. Then followed with 4 to 7 times a month, and then we had a handful of people that said over 7 times a month, which I think that's pretty good. I'm very excited that people are going that much to the library. And the third question, why do you not go to the Ketchikan Public Library? That question would only be asked if they answered 0 times a month. So it was kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, you clicked 0 times, and then this would be the question it took you to. So I could get some feedback on what was like stopping people from going or if people didn't want to go. And what I did last time is like I selected the best responses that gave the best feedback. This time I included every response and I kind of sorted them into what categories it felt like. So it wasn't that you were just reading 44 different responses. It was that you were getting the general point of each of them. So lack of time. Teenagers are busy people, and I understand that. A lot of them play sports or do clubs after school, and it just doesn't, they don't have a lot of time to go to the public library, especially when they're getting their materials from the K-High library. Transportation issues. A lot of kids said that they don't have a way to the library, and I'll get to that point later about the solution. Other libraries and resources. Again, a lot of people mentioned that they have a library at K-High, and so that satisfies all their public library needs. A lack of interest in reading. We did have a couple feedback that was, I'm not big on books. I don't really like books. I don't have a lot of free time, and I don't want to spend my free time getting books, and I respect it. I'm glad that we have that raw feedback. And then some of it said, I don't know what I'm interested in reading. And I'm glad that I now know kind of names of who to send this to, because our librarians, when I talked with Amy about the responses I got, she would love to help someone find a book. And so I can kind of include that in my response, that you don't know what to read, but you kind of want to start reading or you want to find a book. There's about 1 million librarians who would love to help you find one. So that was one thing I looked at. Personal preferences. I never have a need to go to the library. Understandable looking at that. We had one that was said, I moved here during the summer and so I don't know much. And what that told me was that I want there to be more about the Ketchikan Public Library at K-High. Because if that's where kids are the most, teens are the most, if that's where they're getting their information from, we should include that at K-High. And one thing I talked about with Amy was that the K-High student body does, or the Student Body Association does it's called Toilet Times, and it's basically a list of everything happening in the month, and they put it on the inside of the bathroom stalls. And they would love to include all the things that the public library is doing that pertains to teens or even just general in that. So when they're having everything that's happening in January, they can add stuff to that. And I'm going to get Miss Amy a contact for that. I was just figuring out who the best person would be for that. And then number 4, what makes you go to the Ketchikan Public Library? Resounding positive feedback coming from this. And I really would like to talk for an hour about this, but I'll try to keep it just short and to the point. So the biggest one was quiet space and atmosphere. Just looking at some of the responses, it's a nice quiet place to complete schoolwork and conduct research. The calm environment makes it easy to study. So definitely an appeal that way. Study rooms and study areas. I'm going to talk for a couple minutes about this because it's something that we've been developing this year specifically. Not only do people use the study rooms for their homework, but the AP classes have started using the craft room or the larger room when it's not already booked for their study groups. And they have been doing that consistently almost every Sunday for the whole year. And then the AP Lit one, I believe, is on Wednesdays, and they just do the regular study room. But we've been incorporating a lot of class to library specifics. And that just started with a lot of conversation of, did you know you could use this? Did you know you could do this? And a lot of people, it's easy to pick a day where you can just go and get all the work that you need to do done. And I was at the library earlier today and I saw one of the Chem 2 AP chemistry groups there. So I think that is a big point that's happened this year a lot more specifically. And I'm really glad about that. And with the calculus study group specifically, they have been using the large room for, like I said, the whole school year at this point. And they have requested to me that they would like there to be a whiteboard in the craft room. And that felt like a really easy solution. So I talked to Amy about it. And so that is possibly in the works to get them a whiteboard, which they didn't have on this survey, but they did say to me in person. So kind of thinking about study rooms and how that appeal is bringing kids from the classroom to the library has been a big change in this past year. And I think that we should really drive into that focus. I know we can't expand the library, unfortunately, wish we could, but making sure that we have those spaces for them, I think, is important. Did you have something to
No.
say? Okay. And then books and resources. The books and the computers. I did not know that a lot of teens used the computers that they have at the library, but this survey read otherwise. There were a couple kids who do use it. So I'm glad that they have that. And then a lot of talking about different books, how they have large collections of different books and a good variety of books, which I appreciate. And it seems these teenagers do as well. And then a lot of them talked about how they might come in for one book and then they'll see a whole shelf of books and just kind of go through it, and they like that there's a large like collection of different things that they can look at. And then some people were talking about personal and family habits, which this wasn't on the last survey, so I was really interested in this. Teenagers taking younger siblings or their family members to go to the library. I thought that was a really interesting point, that this isn't sometimes just teens going to the teen room, it's teens going to all other sections of the library with their families, with friends. So I thought that was an important point. And then just general enjoyment. A lot of these quotes were just singing the praises of the library. So I'm super grateful that many teens enjoy the library and that we can take from the positives of this. And going on to number 5, the preferred book genres. We saw, or at least I did in this survey compared to the last one, a huge uptick in action adventure fiction. From the last survey, there was about 16 people that said they read these books, and then we had 36 people that said they read these books. So definitely a huge uptick in that. Again, a huge uptick in historical fiction, and then horror going down. Something we also saw going down was sci-fi. That had about 18 responses last time, and now it only has 12. And then looking at, surprisingly, dystopian had a couple less votes than last time, but still, again, it's a very sought after genre. And then the rest of it stayed pretty consistent from last year. We had some people write in a couple different books. Like, I gave them the option to write a different genre if I didn't include it. So health, realistic fiction, and sport were all added. As things that one person really, really liked and wanted to add to the survey. So those I thought were interesting. And then I kind of did a breakdown of each of the ones on the back, so that we can just swing on through. And then I asked the question, why do you like / want to see more of these genres? And I'm trying to find a way to improve this so that when they answer that question, the genres they picked are included in it. But at the moment, I'm having to go to the individual answer and then look at what they chose and then kind of patch it to this, or simply take the ones where they mentioned the one that they were interested in. So I did the best of my ability to match what the comment had said to the genre they were talking about. And then there were a couple ones where it wasn't super specific, but I still included it because I felt like it gave good attention to the genre. But again, there's some where it's just like, I'm a huge fan of this series, and I had to kind of look at the series and figure out what genre that was and where to stick it. So I'm coming up with a better way to do that, and I will definitely pass it on to the next teen rep, and make sure that we continue having a better system for this. And then kind of just a summary of it. Library usage, I covered that in the first bit, but the majority of teenagers, you go to the public library 1 to 3 times a month. The majority of students say that they visit because it's a quiet study environment and the amount of books available is a top priority. Study rooms and library staff. One comment specifically mentioned how wonderful the library staff was, and I think that speaks for all teens, that the library staff is just wonderful. And then the genres in demand, I kind of covered that a little bit. But the most important thing that I did differently this time is that I took the questions, and this should be attached at the end. I took the questions or the problems that were making it so people didn't want to or couldn't go to the library, and I kind of talked to Amy, and we worked out the solutions, or kind of a general idea of what could be a solution. So the first one was transportation. A lot of people, or a lot of teens, said they don't have a way to the library. The Ketchikan Public Library actually partnered with the First City Bus, and they do free teen rides for anyone under the age of 18, I believe it is. So if anyone wanted to go to the library from KI, the Green Line bus goes there and the Silver Line South goes there. So that is an opportunity for teens if they don't have a way to get there. There was one specific question that said, You don't have a lot of books that I do like manga. And so I talked to Amy, and the KPL has a significant collection of manga. If you've ever walked in there, it's just like 2 shelves full of it, and they're actively working to expand it. And if a particular manga isn't available, teens can always use the interlibrary loan system to borrow other manga and other books from other libraries. And then the summer program. A lot of teens ask for more structured activities over the summer, and I think that stemmed from just not knowing about the summer program. So I talked with Amy about how the summer program works and how I should advertise that more at K-High. So that was kind of the solution, that maybe before we change the program, we kind of advertise it more and get more teens to kind of see it first. And one comment even asked for a way to fundraise and support the Ketchikan Public Library. And while the Ketchikan Public Library does not take funds, they don't do fundraisers, the Friends of the Library do fundraisers. And the comment specifically mentioned tote bags. And so talking to Amy, I will be putting back the answer that the Friends of the Library does sell tote bags, because that's what the comment recommended the public library do. And that all of the proceeds support library programs, including the water bottle filter. And then number 5, the water bottle filter. Oh my goodness, this was not on the survey enough that people were so wanting a water bottle filter. There was one comment that just said, I don't know why K-High has one and you guys don't. Please get one. And I mean, nothing's more clear than that. They really, really wanted it, and I'm very excited to see that it's on its way. At this point, when I wrote this, it was on the barge. Now it's here, and so even more exciting. I'll update that when I send out my email. And then the winter reading program. This one specifically came from the comment that mentioned bringing their younger siblings to the library. That they wanted to see a more in-house reading program for younger kids, and the library does do that. So again, that's more just about advertising rather than building a whole program, because there is one, just getting it so more people know about it at K-High. Book requests and series, and this one kind of came from all over, of teens basically saying, I really want this at the library and you don't offer this. And that is a really easy solution, because Amy is constantly working on expanding the library's collection. And if a series is unavailable but it's at another library, we can always do interlibrary loans. And there is a suggestion box always available for teens to propose new books or new series they want the library to add to their collection. So again, if we tend to suggest a book, they are absolutely able to. And then seating arrangements, again, something I saw strongly on this survey was they really like the comfy seating. We really like the comfy chairs and how things are organized to make it feel like very homey, very comfortable. And so some teens were wanting more of that even. So just talking to Amy about some general ideas, there was the thought of maybe taking out a study table and adding more chairs, or kind of like looking at how it is in general. But again, before making these changes, it's really about getting more feedback on that specifically. But I think the library provides right now a good amount of very comfortable seating. So I feel like that is less of an immediate change, more of a looking at feedback and kind of making slow changes to what best benefits the people that are asking for these changes. Study group needs, I kind of talked about this earlier, but the pre-calc group had been asking for a whiteboard, kind of wanting to be able to use that, because I don't take calculus. I hope I won't have to, but they have to write all their equations up on the board and kind of talk together to figure it out. And so getting them a whiteboard was like a high priority for me. And Amy was very, very agreeable to that. And then anonymous feedback. A lot of teens said that they prefer their feedback to be anonymous, that it's really scary to go up and talk to an adult, and that if they could just leave a suggestion in a box, it'd be great. And wonderful Amy already has one. So we just having them know more about the suggestion box and kind of getting that out there to teens, that if they don't want to just walk up to someone and tell them their preferences, they can always say, I'd like this book, or I'd like this series in the suggestion box. And that was really all I had from this survey. I'm, again, still developing it, and moving forward, I would definitely continue to help develop it and make it so that it's more digestible, because right now it's a lot of good data, but not a good way to actually put it into motion. So again, working with that, but this was the winter survey. there will be hopefully another one in the spring, and like looking at that again. But this was really what I had for you guys today. Thank you for listening to me talk for about 20 to 30 minutes. But that was really all I had for you guys. Is there any questions?
Yes. This is just K-High students?
Yes. I had a Revilla contact, and when I sent it to her, they said that there might need to be looking at who is allowed to be on survey lists. And I had this issue at K-High too. And so again, looking at what the best way to send that out to all kids is. And then I was working on getting contact with Fast Track, but I didn't have enough time. It kind of got to the week before, and every time I went to visit and try and figure out where the contact would be, it was always at the wrong time in scheduling. So getting those contacts organized and the best way to send out the survey, because sending it through the school district is difficult because some parents do not want their kids to receive surveys. And so going through the right channels with that is important so that we respect those decisions. And so working that out will definitely be a big thing for me, is that if any teen wants to put it on the survey, they can. But really finding the contacts is difficult. So I'm working on that, and then I'm working on that with Mr. Dormer too. He's been helping me get contacts for that. So that's kind of, yes, he's the principal, sorry. It's kind of an ongoing process. By the next survey, hopefully we will have those contacts.
Oh, you're doing great. Way more than I'm doing. So this isn't really a question, but it is just a comment. I think that and Amy too, adding library stuff to the Toilet Times is an excellent idea. I don't have any kids in high school, but my husband referees basketball. And so I spend a significant amount of time at the high school watching sports that I never played because I'm 5'2". Anyways, I don't have kids in school. I don't go to that school. I mean, I did 20 some odd years ago, but I read the Toilet Times every time I'm there. It's great. And it's even if it's not just for students, but you know, the volume of people attending events, whether it be, you know, things in the auditorium or in the gym or just, I mean, even out of town students and their visitors coming for, you know, DDF tournaments, you know, judges, all of that stuff will read that when they use the restroom and be like, oh, I didn't know the library did that. So I think that is an awesome idea, and I give that 2 thumbs up to get in the Toilet Times.
Right now I'm working on who best that is to send it to, because the Toilet Times are they're disputed territory. It used to be the journalism class that did it, and then the student body took it over, and now it's been a mix because the girl who's been doing it is on both. And so getting a long-term idea of who that should go to, I'm working on that right now. And I will get that to Pat as soon as possible.
Awesome. I like that idea.
Any other questions or comments? If I may add also, if you have the ability to respond to the participants, just thank them very much. This was very valuable information. For them taking the time is just incredible. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. So now we are on to item 11C, library budget process for board review. And the meeting packet contains a letter from the city manager and a memo from the library director answering questions brought up at the October 9th Library Advisory Board meeting. Since the development of next year's budget, I presume, begins of next year's
Oh, let's see.
begins in August.
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
and is submitted by the library to the city finance department by early September. The library director recommends that the director provide the board with a mid-year budget performance report at its July meeting for the board to review and make recommendations for changes in the next year's budget. So we all had a chance to take a look at the letter, lots of responses on the questions. Do you have anything to add before we get started?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I guess since this is not necessarily a motion required, I believe that the response from the city attorney was pretty straightforward, as well as the responses on the questions. I guess I don't know if we have, is there anything that anybody would like to, any motions or anything we'd like to add to this agenda item?
I had asked, to add this to the agenda because of where we had left off at the last meeting. Prior to receiving the agenda, I didn't know that Ms. Walsh had wrote a letter. And I knew Pat had some questions, that needed to be answered and whatnot. So I just wanted to add it to the agenda as old business, just so we could wrap up the loose ends that weren't taken care of at the last meeting.
Great, thank you.
And I think both of those letters do that, so I have nothing left to say.
All right, any other items for 11C? Yes, ma'am.
I have some questions. If that's what we're gonna do, just tell me.
Well, I think for discussion, we'll need to make a motion, I believe.
I just have questions on the information that was given to
Okay.
us.
Yeah, I think, okay,
That's all.
I think that's reasonable.
But if we need a motion, just let me know.
No, I think that's reasonable for if you have any clarifying questions.
So who are we going to ask? I mean, I assumed we were asking questions of people who wrote the memos. Is that what we're doing? You tell me.
I think that in this instance, Ms. Walsh, would you be able to field some of the questions regarding what was sent?
So then you can do that one.
All right.
Okay. On Ms. Walsh's memo, it says there were inaccurate claims about Ms. Tully's ability to answer questions and understand the budget at the October 17th, 2024 meeting. And my question for that was, what were those claims that were inaccurate?
I have to look at the minutes of this meeting. I can't recall the date. That memo was written immediately after. the next council meeting. I couldn't go over.
You said that faster than I got to my papers. Hang on there. I know there were two of us who spoke. I didn't have any claims. I didn't say any claim. There was, oh, please, don't lose your papers. Oh, boy. Is that it? That is not it. There it is. On the claims, the things that I heard said by the other speaker, and because it was easier for me, I just transcribed it. Said that that person said that the library director did not give us the new budget, and I think that was true. That let's talk about the overdue book charges. I had nothing to do with that discussion. That there wasn't an answer for the discrepancies of the borough funding amounts, and that is true. There wasn't an answer at the time. Library director is responsible for planning, and I can't speak to that because I didn't see what she was talking about as far as a description of job description. But the big one that I wanted to bring up was, it was said that this is not about being able to answer the questions about the budget, or this is not about being able to answer the questions about the budget and being willing to explain if there are so many unanswered questions. So what I took from that was the same thing that I had to say, that there was both a lack of preparedness to address the board's questions, and I can't speak to what she says, but I would say the same thing. There were some questions that were not answered that I would have expected a director to be able to answer. That was what struck me, I think, the most. Some questions here were given later on in this memo, obviously after the meeting, but I don't understand why if the questions were answered in the memo, why they couldn't be answered at the meeting.
I was not at the meeting.
No, you were not at the meeting. These were questions that were answered by the library director. And that was a big thing that stood out to me. There were, for example, question 2, 3, 4 are specifically from other departments. But others like 6 and 9 were not answered at the meeting. And that's what was disturbing. Which is why I brought up that point in your memo.
And did you have any other questions?
Yes, if that's okay.
And we, just to make sure that the conversation is, moves forward, just any questions that we can offer on the information that was provided.
Say that again.
Questions, that way we can answer the questions for you.
Right.
Okay,
Which-
perfect. Thank you.
I thought that was what I did I not?
There was quite a bit of commentary, but I don't know if there's necessarily questions that we can clarify for you.
So am I not allowed to comment? Just ask questions, just so I know?
You're welcome to ask questions. I'm just saying that, or provide some commentary. I'm just saying that if you have questions, I'd like to get those addressed on the side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then let me go to the 4th paragraph in that memo. As outlined in the Ketchikan Municipal Code, with the code given, section code given, one of the Library Advisory Board key responsibilities is to review and make recommendations to the City Council regarding the library budget. While the Library Advisory Board discussed the budget, no formal recommendations were submitted to the City Council. Were you aware that we were not able, or that the resolution or the motion was that we were unable to make that motion or that those recommendations because we didn't have the
You made a
information?
motion. So you had no recommendations unless those specific questions were answered?
I'll say, well, I probably said that incorrectly. Were you aware that the second motion that was made and passed unanimously was, and I could find it, but I'll paraphrase, that the board, because the board didn't have answers to its questions, it wasn't able to give the City Council those
I didn't take it
recommendations?
as an inability to give recommendations. I took it as there were no other recommendations. I understood there was a discussion and you did ask questions and ask for more information. But there were no recommendations other than beyond that.
And that probably is why, I would assume, because the minutes didn't have that resolution in it, or that resolution is not correct, the
Were
motion in it.
recommendations at the whole meeting?
The,
Or only the final? That's where I'm trying to follow you.
okay, hang on.
Did you have, did the board, any board member have a recommendation for the budget?
It's
Not
on my
just answering the
page.
question. Was there,
I-
were you asking for increased
I
staff?
can answer that once you look up. No, we did not have any recommendations as a body.
Oh, where'd it go?
Then I would recommend if that's something that you want to do, that is a deliberation that takes place before Pat even brings the draft budget. And I'll be honest, our budget isn't finalized until we give it to the city council. Everything is in draft form until that memo is issued. And so you're not going to see a final. You're not going to see a final draft. You're not going to see a final anything, just like the FAB. The FAB goes through it. They understand. They actually work with the Port and Harbors Department to develop their CIP recommendations. They have those discussions as a body and then move those forward.
Found it. Thank you. That the city be told that the Library Advisory Board did not receive updated information or answers to its questions that were asked at the meeting and were unable to give recommendations. That was the one that passed unanimously. So,
And that was the choice of the board to say, we're not gonna have any recommendations about the answer. That was your decision. Is that what you're reading?
yes,
Okay, then yes.
okay. I will move on from that. Your last, second to last paragraph, well, I'll call that a last paragraph because the last one was a single sentence. I strongly object to suggestions that the city or department head is either incompetent or misappropriating public funds. I could pull it out, but suffice it to say, if you listen to the meeting or read the transcript, I specifically said multiple times that none of this was in any way casting aspersions at all on anyone. And to be honest, it was exciting to finally see a budget given to the board to review. This was the first time a budget was given to this board while I've been sitting on it to review prior to it going to the city council.
Ms. Simon, I'm going to go and call a point of order. So one thing I'd like to just remind this body is that this body is purely an advisory board. The city of Ketchikan does not answer to us. The employees of the Ketchikan Library do not answer to us. And it is not our role to do a line item audit on the city budget, nor the audit of the library. It is our role to make suggestions. And if we'd like to make a suggestion on how we think that we can better serve the community by making a suggestion that could impact the budget, then that is our role. And I think that what I perceive as an implication that the city manager or any employee of the city of Ketchikan must answer to us, it steps out of our role. And I think that we need to keep that in mind. The governing body of this institution is the city council. And that is the place where a lot of these questions are most appropriate, but then they also have the city manager and then the director. So that is my input on this. And just as a reminder that we have a specific role and that it's important that we maintain it. Okay, so if you have any other questions on the actual, is there anything in this that is, you may not agree with, but is there anything that is actually that we can maybe have an actionable item on?
Well, I'm going to back you up,
Okay.
and I'm going to request
Sure.
that you state what you think I said that warranted such a response.
Okay. I felt that we were making questions of the city manager. My perspective was that we're making questions of the city manager that was outside of our role. That's what I felt. So so that's why I called a point of order. Now, I feel that the information was provided by the city, was provided by the attorney on this. As my understanding, again, maybe my understanding is incorrect, but I did speak it over with the city manager that our role regarding the budget is not to do an item by item audit. That is the role of the finance department, the city manager, and the city council. And that our role is, and a lot of the questions appear to be predicated upon a belief that that is our role. And so because I felt like that seemed to be the foundation of the line of questioning, I wanted to make sure that we stay within our role as an advisory board. So that's why I brought that up.
So again, I'll ask for specificity. What was it that I said that warranted your response?
It was the manner of the questions directed at the city manager. Now, I don't have the capacity to recite them verbatim. I apologize, but I felt that they were of the tone and tenor that would, to me, indicated that we were making demands of the city manager, and I just felt that that was not within our role.
I was not making demands, and I would request that you specifically give me the words that you thought was demand.
I believe I've made my argument. If you do have any other questions for the city manager, you're welcome to make them.
Well, I don't know that I can because you've just told me that you don't like what I'm saying because you can't specifically tell me what it is. So tell me, of all of the notes that I painstakingly made, what am I allowed to say?
You are allowed to say anything that you want. I just added a point of order and my input to please move this meeting along and to remind this body how I interpret our role to be. Now, if you'd like to make another comment or question, you're more than welcome to, but I just wanted to make sure that I, as the chair, advise this body what our role is. And again, we are an advisory board. And so if you do have another question, you're more than welcome. Do you have another question?
I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
What does the code say that we are supposed to do?
Well, the code as outlined in the letter was while the review and make recommendations to the city council regarding the library budget. That's how it was presented. And so that's what it says.
If I can't get the questions answered, how can I participate in a review?
I believe I've made my point of order. I have made my argument. If you do have further questions, you're more than welcome to make them.
Then I will feel free to do that until you stop me again. As I was saying, since I've been on this body, this was the first time that a budget was given to the board to review prior to it being given to the city council. It's actually quite exciting to be able to review that. Unfortunately, most of the questions that I had were met with, I don't have the answers, and it's unlikely that we'll get them in time for the city council. Number 2 in Pat's memo, number 1 says that the revisions to the September 4th draft were minor for the most part, consisting mainly of corrections in typographical or calculation errors. Could you explain that a little more? What you meant by minor and consisting mainly of?
Oh, I think just what it says.
I just
I-
had edits. I just proofread it and made edits and then submitted for things that needed to be capitalized, things that had extra spacing. It was just basic edits. That was the revisions.
I'm sorry, you did?
When we all got the budget, I gave Pat my copy with revisions and proofreading that I did, and those were the revisions that she had added and changed.
And they were typographical.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so then the question is, why didn't the library director provide the latest version of the budget draft?
because, and I think I put this in the explanation, when I was preparing the packet, it was so soon after I received the very slightly revised draft that I decided that those very minor changes did not warrant sending out the
Right.
updated version.
Which is what I meant by minor.
Right.
That's what I meant. So when you say minor,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean by minor?
Did you want a list?
No, but I can give you a list. Because I don't have the draft that you're talking about. I do have the draft that you sent us. And I just put the first page together with the draft that you gave the board. And these highlighted are the changes. These aren't the same as what was given on the front page to the board to review.
I would have to do an analysis to see whether you're comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges. And
I'm sorry,
to my point, where does this get us as far as changing the way we do things in the future? In the agenda,
Well,
I suggest that in the future, we at our July meeting, do a mid-year budget performance report where I talk about how the budget is going so far and talk about the next year and what the board may want to suggest as far as changes. I think this kind of audit basically does not get us where we want to go in the future.
So in answer to your question, it was my understanding, unless you're gonna stop me again.
well, I would like to make sure that we are staying, again, true to our role. So again, that's just a point of order. I don't believe that the library director doesn't answer to us in this way. I think that if there were, so my suggestion is, and I don't, well, let me ask you this. How many more individual items would you like to discuss? Do you have a general idea?
This is exactly what this board has done to me several times. You've told me to speak, you've given me the opportunity to speak, and then you've stopped me. Do you want me to even finish one of these? Because I haven't been able to do that. I have asked questions, and I have now been told that the answer to my question won't get us anywhere. So this is what happened at the meeting last time.
And I would like.
This particular item, this says that they were minor changes. These are not minor. This says that in number 2, part of this document was not ready for distribution. Then why was it distributed to the body that was supposed to do the review? These are the things that I'm trying to.
Might have some answers for you.
I can answer the why. It is always in draft form. You're not gonna get a final until the city council publishes it. So we don't give you the final of what is submitted to city council until they do. This happens well before the process. So constantly that budget will be tweaked. Whatever is remitted to the city council is not stamped and approved by this board. It's reviewed by this board and recommendations are solicited for the council that we can take forward. So for example, you may say we want to fund a full-time children's librarian or an additional staff member. That would be the suggestion. You have a draft budget, you look at it, there could be some tweaks, there could be some edits, there could be some typographical changes, there could be objectives. Maybe in the summary of what was achieved in the prior year, you want something different. You would make those recommendations to Pat, but it is not going to come back and forth to deliberate at this body. It will always be a draft. You go through it, you had questions, which were excellent questions. That's absolutely valid, and Pat did try to answer them, but this is just a draft. If you go through it and you had recommendations, that was the time to make them. So I understand at this point, what the body is trying to get to is how do we make this better for next year? You already commented it's great that the board actually saw the budget. Personally, I can't speak for the rest of you, but I like the idea of mid-year review. And let's start drafting our recommendations today in July. And what do we want to support or not support for the library when it comes to the budget? But the details you're questioning and asking about, happy to answer those at any time if you'd like to do it. But the budget as it sits today is finalized and the city council has passed it.
Can I speak now? I'm just asking.
Sure.
What did I say that made you think that I was referring to a final budget?
Ms. Simon, I'm just trying to understand and give you as much information as possible.
That
And
is
I don't
refreshing
want-
to hear.
That's all I wanted to do.
Because we didn't have that at the last meeting. And these answers here, none of them were given, except the ones that said we can ask, but they may not have the time to actually give it to you. Now, yes, I have other things to say, but clearly, unless you really want comments on these papers that were given to the board as a result of this agenda, there's no reason for you to listen to me, because you've asked if there were questions. You said, go ahead and comment. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to give all of us, still trying to give all of us a way to go forward and do this better next time. So I guess I need to ask. I feel like this is timeout time. Do you want to hear what I have to say or not?
If you have questions that can be answered, then absolutely. If the time is going to be spent just providing just commentary without a motion, then that is outside of generally how a meeting is managed. Okay? If you have a suggestion, then by all means make a motion. If there's something that you'd like to add to make the meetings, the budget, and something into the future that you think will better serve our community, by all means make a motion. But to provide a lot of, a significant amount of commentary without a motion is outside of generally how a meeting is done. Now, if you do have specific questions to the information that's provided, then by all means, again, but that is not what is happening. So again, I'll add some more input at the end of the meeting on the ways that I would recommend that we manage some of these more complex issues. But I do think that, again, our role is advisory. And I believe that we have the information that we have, the information that we need to make advisory recommendations if you wish to make a motion. Would you like to make a motion?
Where on the agenda does it say that we're making a motion and not discussing this?
In generally Robert Rules of Orders, it is generally part of the process that if you would like to have an open discussion about a topic, that you make a motion. If it is a matter of just airing, then that really is a time towards the end of the meeting when we have our own independent input. Okay, but I believe that the information that was provided makes it clearly outlined, kind of answers a lot of the questions. And if in the previous meeting, if the city manager felt that some of the questions could have been answered, and that's between the city manager and Ms. Tully. Okay, so is there anything else that you would like to do that you think could help us with this budgetary process in the future to better serve our community?
All of what I had outlined was to do that. Do you want to hear what I have to say or not? Because at this point, it feels to me like you are outside of your role. If what we're here to do is to, as you said earlier, ask questions and make comments, you've stopped me several times now. So there's not a whole lot else I can say except why this and what about this, but you don't want to hear that. Is that correct?
Well, I think it's important that we conduct ourselves within the role of our position.
You've said that several times.
I have, yes.
Is our role not to advise about the budget?
It is one of our responsibilities, yes.
Then why can I not ask questions about a memo that was sent outside of our meeting to the body that we report to about the budget?
I'm sorry, so you and to clarify, you do have questions?
I've been asking questions.
Okay, so I think then probably to ensure that your questions do get proper audience, and this is, I'll just quickly add this, I was going to add it to the end of the meeting, but I think it's important. We do get the meeting packet a week, I believe, before the meeting. And I think that for us as a body, if we do have a series of questions, I don't think it's unreasonable to get those questions out to the director so they have time to answer them or time to provide with details and information that could be beneficial to the entire body. I think to go through and again, do almost an item by item audit of the information we're presented is not the most productive way. So I'm not trying to prevent you from being able to air your concerns if you have them. I'm just trying to make sure that we can move this meeting along and that we can make sure that we're doing the work that is going to be good for our community. And the budget has already been set. It has already been passed. We've learned something from this last meeting, and we can apply that to the next budgetary, or not season, but time period. And I think it's a great recommendation to do a mid-year kind of overview. So I think, we can still take what we have, apply it in a positive way. And I just think that if there are a lot of questions, it's something that we could address, but by contacting the director beforehand, so we have time to address it then. So that's where I'm coming from. And I think that unless there's something that we can actually provide as far as a service to the community, then I think we should move on to the next agenda item.
So let me be clear. What you're suggesting, let me make sure that I understand it, that when there is information in the packet that a board member has questions on, those questions are to be asked of the staff outside the meeting.
No, not necessarily. Okay, to help clarify, and again, for the body, it is my recommendation that if there's information in the agenda that would require a lot of questions and a lot of scrutiny or investigation, that it would be more beneficial and more efficient and more effective to send those questions to the director, so they have time to take a look at and provide to say, these questions were asked. Here's some of the responses. That is my recommendation.
Understood. I don't think there's a whole lot more that I can lend to this discussion. I will have to take it up with another body. So you can move on.
Great, thank you.
Can I make a quick clarifying
Sure.
on the subject?
Mhm.
So there is a motion on the floor that you fully made. Is
Oh,
that correct?
I can't, I don't think I can, I'm staff, so I don't think I can make a motion.
No,
Was
there wasn't a
there-
motion, there was a recommendation in
Yeah.
the library item 11C, and since the development of next year's budget begins August and is submitted by the library to the city finance department early September, the library director recommends that the director provide the board with a mid-year budget.
So we do have a recommendation to make this process better next time.
We do.
And we will have a meeting in July where talk of how to make this process smoother and what things need to be changed. Questions and comments can be made then at that meeting that will pertain to the process specifically.
Yes,
Okay.
that's how I understand it. And again, Ms. Tully will provide the agenda a week in advance, so we can have a chance to take a look at it and submit any questions for her. Ms. Dahl.
Could I make a motion?
Sure.
I move that the director provide the board with a mid-year budget performance report at its July meeting for the board to review and make recommendation for changes in the next year's budget.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Great, thank you. And so we'll go and call roll.
Okay. See, Hobbs,
Aye.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Pilgrim,
Yes.
Simon,
Abstain.
let's see, Dahl,
Aye.
Finnegan.
Yes.
See, so I think if we, oh, sorry. Echo Hawk.
Yes,
Okay,
it's a great idea.
okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yays and 1 abstention.
Great, thank you. And the motion passes. Okay, so next is going to be item 12, upcoming, new business. The first item of discussion is upcoming board vacancies. We have 3 seats that will be vacant in March 31st, 2025. High school representative, 1-year term, borough resident, 3-year term, Friends of the Library representative, 3-year term. So it's not really any action we need to take, just that we do have these vacancies coming up. And so if anybody in the high school would like to apply again, that'd be great. Then again, anybody in the borough can apply for the 3-year term. And Friends of the Library, I'm assuming it has to be someone that's on the Friends of the Library.
I think in the past, not necessarily. I don't know, Pat.
I think the Friends of the Library needs to be somebody who's a friend.
On the board.
That would certainly be more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think so. Yeah, I agree. So, so just information, anything else? Yeah.
No, I think what we're going to do is I'll be working with the clerk's office, and they'll be advertising, so that we can get applications. The clerk's office will receive the applications, and then the city mayor will make the final determination.
Okay, great.
I have a
Yes,
question
yes.
about that.
Mm.
Does the city mayor make all of the appointments, even for the borough resident and the friends? Or is that on the,
For the borough resident, yes.
okay, I just
Um,
wasn't sure if it was the borough mayor that picked the borough resident or,
No.
The borough
Okay.
mayor picks the borough assembly.
got it, but not the borough
representative.
resident.
Right,
Okay,
right.
I just,
Any other questions on item 12A? Okay, thank you. Moving on to board member comments. We'll go ahead, I'll go and start. So I would like to, first of all, say Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season, no matter how you choose to celebrate it. I think as we start a new year and as with every year, there's always going to be some highs and some lows within our community. And but at the end of the day, it is community, and it's important that we look out for each other and back each other up. And no matter who we are and what we all believe in, as long as we treat each other with respect, then I think that's what's most important. And I think that's why the library is so important to me, is because it has so many different perspectives, so many different points of views. And by better understanding those different points of views, helps us better understand the people and helps us better respect the individual. So I'm excited to be part of this body, regardless of my role in it. And I'm excited to continue to serve the community in this capacity. And just to reiterate, I think that as we are going to have very complex issues that come up, as always. So we do, it's just, if it's going to require a lot of attention, a lot of scrutiny, just send out an email. It's my recommendation to the directors so they can have a chance to take a look at it, review it, and try to get some responses back to us. Everybody does a lot of work, and we're not always going to have everything right on the tip of our right on, and readily available at all times. So I don't think that's unreasonable. So Nina, we'll go and start on your end of the table.
May I make my comment as a future agenda item?
Oh,
Or can I combine those two?
Don't be, yeah, I don't,
the next.
it is, let's get wild.
I'm just saying for efficiency.
Yeah.
So thank you. I apologize for being late. I came from the Arts Council and we have wearable art next week. And my future agenda item is I'm wondering if we can make a request for a discussion. If by chance we do have a conflict where we can't meet on our normally scheduled time, that we default automatically to the second one that we have in hold just for scheduling purposes.
It's a great idea.
Just because Wednesdays are very busy and there's school board and arts council and other meetings all over. So just for scheduling for people who are involved in many things like everyone on this board is, that's my future agenda item to discuss. And thank you guys, and it's good to be back. New year.
Thank you. Ms. Dahl.
Yeah, I want to say it was really fun to have the group effort with making my motion. So I thought it was really good teamwork, and I was happy with the result. And I have to say, thank you, Sophia, for being so active and bringing the teenage perspective to us. Thank you.
Ms. Pilgrim.
So I have had so much joy serving on this board with you all. It has been a wonderful experience, and I am so grateful that of the opportunities I've had to do surveys like this and get in touch with other representatives. And just I've learned so much on this board. So thank you to you all for that. I have accepted a position to work as a page in the Senate for the next 6 months. So I will not be in Kyrgyzstan physically. And so because of my not being here, whether I reapply for this position again is up in the air based off of what I can work out logistically. But with conversations I've had with other teens interested, I think that no matter where or who it ends up being, that we have built a great foundation to start on. I know there hadn't been a teen rep for a couple of years, so coming into this position, I didn't really know. There was no lines. It was kind of just a swim situation. And so I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity to build a foundation, and I will be definitely passing that on to whomever takes the position if I do not get the position again. And just, I've had such a wonderful time serving on the board with you all, so thank you. And I am so grateful for this year with you all, so thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for your service. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on board, regardless if you jump back in or not. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Mr. Finnegan.
I'd like to thank Ms. Tupper for her presentation on the Youth Services Division. It's nice to get sort of an overview of what's happening there, what's working, improvements that are being made. Ms. Tully for her brief overview of the year, and to echo Ms. Dahl, to thank Ms. Pilgrim for her exhaustive efforts to put together information and responses, not only from teens who live in our community, but from youth across the nation. It's enormously helpful. And it's also really wonderful that you are leaving that program that you've built in place for whomever might fill this seat next, whether it's you or someone else. That's a benefit not only to this board, but also to the library. So thank you. Just a job as a Senate page, huh? That's all you can do. Good luck.
Found it on job.com, you know.
They're lucky to have you, and good luck.
Thank you.
And I'll just there was an item that I wanted to suggest adding to next meeting's agenda. I really like the preamble of the Constitution of the United States of America. I think that it's a quick read, and we could fit it in somewhere between 1 and 4. And I'd like to have a discussion about adding it to the agenda as part of our regular routine, and just so everybody has time to kind of ruminate on and kind of why I like this so much is the drafters of the Constitution. What separated them from their peers was education, was knowledge. And I don't think there's anything else that exemplifies the spirit of the Constitution more than our institutions of education knowledge, like the library, like our public school system, like our university system. And so I just thought it'd be really important, or appropriate rather, that we find a place to put it, because that education knowledge, you can never have too much of it. Never have too much of it. And when you have a lack of it in any civilization throughout time, it's never been good. So that's why. So just something to think about. That's why I'd like to consider adding that. And that was it for me, Ms. Montgomery.
Thank you. Well, if we're getting wild tonight and doing future agenda items, oh boy, I wrote one down. I wrote 2 down. Just like Ms. Hops had stated earlier, I want to add to the agenda for the next meeting a motion to open discussion to address what's listed in the Ketchikan Municipal Code regarding our meetings. It does specifically state it's the second Wednesday of every quarterly month, and that directly conflicts with school board meetings for the entire year. If anybody wants to attend school board meetings, they're going to miss this meeting, and I'm not okay with that. I have children, and the state of our school board is it's in a bit of turmoil, and I think that is something that we need to address, not just moving to the next Wednesday, because that will fall on the other school board meeting, but possibly discussing other nights of the week. The city council meets on Thursdays, the Borough Assembly meets on Mondays, school board is on Wednesdays. The rest of the advisory boards for the city meet what appears to be on Tuesdays, but in the code, it doesn't say anything about what day of the month. It only labels their frequency, whether it be each month, every other month. So I would like to see that on the agenda so we can discuss getting that changed so everybody is able to make meetings if they want to talk more at tables like this. I guess with that being said, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I especially would like to thank our wonderful city manager, Miss Walsh. I understand this is your last library advisory meeting with us, and I appreciate everything that you have done for us. I've learned a lot from you, and I know I'm not the most professional one sitting up here, but I think we can all say a big thank you to you for everything that you have done. I was going to congratulate Mr. Bailey on his appointment to the Borough Assembly, but it's past his bedtime. And June and Nina, thank both of you guys, you're friends at the library. And if you guys could thank Tony at the jail for us, I think what you guys are doing up there is awesome, and given a lot of hope and things to do to people that need that kind of help.
Actually, Tony has a lot of ideas, not all of them relative to books, but things like tutoring,
Mhm.
journaling.
I love that you guys are helping
Yeah.
with that.
So it's just wonderful to see somebody, take over
Yeah,
and just, blossom. So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm
And
looking
then-
forward to this.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm glad you guys are getting in on that. It's not just the outreach, but everybody, is really taking part in that. And then Amy and Pat, thank you guys for your awesome reports. Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair is gone. Last but not least, I'm gonna be very sad when we get the water bottle filler installed, because we're gonna lose that discussion that has been a reoccurring theme of every
I got more.
library
Don't worry,
meeting
I got more.
that I have been a part of. And Sophia, thank you for everything. Deb, thank you. And I'm not sure, is it your term is also expiring, or is it yours? Yours? Okay, thank you. It's been
You
fun
had
if you don't
two-
come back.
Yeah, you had two items you want to add to the agenda.
Yeah, we'll skip the second one
Okay.
for the interest of saving time.
Oh, all right, Ms. Simon. Thank you. Ms. Pat, would you like to add anything to the community for the discussion?
No, thanks to everyone. Thanks to Nina, thanks to Sophia, thanks to Deborah. I know that it has not always been the easiest discussions that we've had, but we made changes that I think made the advisory board stronger because of your participation. So thank you. Here's to another great year starting up, and that's all I've got to say.
All right, excellent. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll go, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
And we are adjourned.